A few weeks ago, the world was taken aback by a Monday night football game where CPR and other life saving measures had to be taken to resuscitate Damar Hamlin, an NFL football player. The first person to begin chest compressions, activate the EAP or the Emergency Action Plan, and tend to the injured athlete was an athletic trainer. The athletic training staff, along with several other healthcare professionals and team administration, are tasked with creating and implementing an emergency action plan. I am currently employed by a local hospital who holds a contract with a couple of the local rural high schools to provide those athletic training services. Since the high school level athletics do not have resources or access to the same amount of healthcare personnel daily, my job is to mitigate injury and illnesses whenever and wherever possible. This includes preparing for the absolute worst case scenarios, such as cardiac arrest of a high school athlete, by creating an emergency action plan. This is a very intricate process, but must be left general enough to encompass each sport and venue. The EAP, or Emergency Action Plan, must be venue specific and be able to work for the freshman level all the way up through the varsity level. As you can imagine, the number of coaching staff, referees, players, and spectators are different from, for example, freshman soccer to varsity football on a Friday night. My job is to create a plan that works for both situations. My name is Nikki Rowland. The group that I led met on Wednesday, February 22nd at 2023 at Lakeside Lutheran High School's study hall room. The first meeting, this is one of several meetings, but it happened between the hours of 6:30 and 8 p.m. and had 9 participants. I was the host of the meeting along with my athletic director. The other people that attended were Chief of EMS, our school guidance counselor, our school resource officer, one of our assistant football coaches, our assistant principal, our guidance director, and an ER physician. Overall, I thought that the meeting went well. There was a ton to cover and good discussion points were held. To begin the meeting, most people knew each other. I was actually the newest one of the year. I'm the school's first full-time athletic trainer. And the newest to this group. So it was me who really didn't know everyone together. So the icebreaker was nice to have, but definitely wasn't needed. Everyone was thrilled to be asked to be a part of this, and we're happy to have these conversations. No one had ever thought of getting all these people together and actually hashing this out. With several different specialties amongst the group of the meeting, people had a lot to say and input. With the research that I had done, I had proposed to the group a template that had already been outlined, and it's structured an emergency action plan, and all the group had to do was mold it to fit our situation. I had sent out with the agenda before the group had even met. Most of the group was not prepared to think about how to define specific topics, which was the entire goal of this first meeting. With that being the case, I had to educate or mini lecture the group on emergency action plans and their intended purpose and why it was important to set up a chain of command and define different situations and topics. After explaining the big picture to the group and why each person was brought in and why their specialty was important, conversations started to flow. My athletic director, who was partly co-hosting with me, and I utilized reflection, summary, clarification, and questioning, did a lot of linking together, and we had to restate the purpose of the group several different times. I did notice that when a topic or statement was not fully understood by the group members, they would just get quiet. And it was me just really trying to draw them out as to trying to clarify and question. And I had to use that active listening as to what they didn't understand. Overall, the majority of the meeting was used for education and some of the topics, rather than discussing some of the topics that I had planned. By the end of the meeting, people were floored that the time had passed by so quickly. After the education portion, participants were much more willing to contribute information and understand why their part was important of the emergency action plan. In the beginning of the meeting, I was very nervous, which I know it showed. My voice was shaky, and I believe that I used my hands to talk too much. I also noticed that I struggled to make eye contact at the beginning with people. The longer the meeting went on, the more the group turned to me for advice, since I had been deemed the expert in the field, the easier and the more comfortable I became. Especially when I had to refocus the group and remind everybody of the purpose on multiple occasions. Some of the issues that I ran into I think came in regards of planning. I didn't realize that people just didn't understand or fully know what goes into the process of creating an emergency action plan. I know that the school has the emergency action plan for fire and bomb threats, and obviously most people that I thought were at this meeting had been involved in the creation or reviewing of those emergency action plans. This was not the case. I think if I were to do it all over again from scratch, I would do a lot more education up front and then hold the meeting or send out the education. Although, even though I had sent out an agenda, as well as obviously this template, people didn't fully read it, which is why I'm kind of hesitant to do that again. Some of the feedback that I had received is that the meeting should be held longer and that there should be some like food or refreshment option. So the next meeting, we are planning on doing a potluck style dinner and discuss the rest of the information. The highlight for me was the fact that I was the youngest person there and a female, and I was looked at as the expert. In my field, the majority of my coworkers are older males, and they seem to struggle when a younger person is coming in and telling them what to do. This was the first time all of these different fields had come together to work cohesively as one, especially led by a younger female, and it turned out to be an extremely positive experience for all. Although we didn't cover everything that I had proposed on the agenda, they all walked away with the better understanding of each other's point of view and their job and how it relates to the emergency action plan. So I am looking forward to our next meeting and hope that this becomes a yearly reviewed situation.